In the Greek play Antigone by Sophocles, the tragedy that unfolds due to loyalty and pride is not an unexpected one. In earlier works such as Antigone, the downfall of a character is strongly hinted at from the very beginning, as these works tend to focus on not the downfall itself, because we all know what will unfold, but how and why it unfolded as so. This is similar to Rockstar's method of storytelling as well. In several of their works, from GTA to RDR, there are subtle and sometimes not so subtle pieces of dialogue or action that foreshadow how the story will unfold, and a common thematic subject throughout these works is pride. As quoted from Antigone, "Think, all men make mistakes, but a good man yields when he knows his course is wrong and repairs the evil. The only crime is pride." We have three protagonists of Rockstar games to compare to Arthur Morgan, the protagonist of RDR2. Michael DeSanta of GTA 5, Cole Phelps of LA Noire, and John Marston of RDR1. The reason behind selecting these characters is because of their completed stories, whereas other Rockstar works like Max Payne may continue, and it wouldn't be practical to talk about this detective without his finale yet told.
I've been caught up in the bullshit, Doc. You know, ever since I pulled this Mexican's house off a hill, it's been nothing but killing and robbing. I mean, I hooked up with this old associate. I even got a new one, too. This kid. With, I don't know, he's got similar proclivities. You know? Oh, God. Now everything's out of control. I mean, but it's not by choice. You know, my life just got away from me.
You're plainly addicted to chaos.
Well, I'm not sure that's true, Doc. I'm not exactly enjoying myself here. You know, what I'm addicted to is not getting killed. But for some reason, I keep getting my ass into situations where getting killed is a little hard to avoid.
What about the people you kill?
Well, yeah, but that's not for fun.
Are you sure?
What exactly are you asking, Doc? Am I a psychopath who enjoys suffering? Or a sociopath who doesn't give a flying fuck about the rules? Come on, we've already had this conversation, right? I'm neither. I'm just a fat, washed-up jock who can't get his head around the fact that his high school football career didn't play out the way that he planned. The only way I'm content and competent is with a gun in my hand or a price on my head.
You're very defensive, Michael. Do you consider yourself a failure?
I pay you to listen to my problems. I'm rich, I'm miserable. I mean, half the time my kids can't stand me, the other half, my wife is cheating on me. I kill people without remorse, Doc. Hell, I'm pretty average for this town, really. Hey, wait a minute, that's the shot. I think I'm having a breakthrough here, Doc. I know that I'm just terrified that
I'm sure you are, but that's really all we have time for.
Michael's selfishness and hot temper are always what gets him into bad situations. The greatest example being when he tore down what ended up being a drug cartel's stilt house, which led to him getting beaten and threatened to pay back millions of dollars that he doesn't even have. This causes his retreat into crime, having him question whether he should stick to his lawless pride back at it as a criminal or continue being a family man he's tried to settle down as. His indecisiveness is also due to his midlife crisis. His egotism doesn't help either, as Michael wants to have both the glory of a criminal and the satisfaction of a father, that he tries to make both work alongside each other. He's stuck trying to find a balance, and it shows. Michael isn't a ruthless murderer as someone like his old pal Trevor is, showing he isn't so fit to live loud and lawless as he was previously more capable of before having a family, although he isn't exactly the best dad in the world either. He does care for his children, but he doesn't know how to show it and isn't ready, just as he isn't ready to completely revert back to his criminal lifestyle even as Trevor tries to convince him otherwise.
Because you're a killer. You know, you are a man of action. You do not sit on couches, you take scores. You're back, man. We are back. All right? All we gotta go do is bust out Brad and then we're golden, man. Franklin, he makes us multicultural. Lester makes it cyber. We're like modern America. We just get ourselves a gay friend. Bam!
No, it's not it. I got money. It just makes you miserable. I want to make movies.
Great. It's great. And, so where exactly does this leave me in the second act of your life?
We're gonna do this last big job, and then we're gonna dissolve the partnership.
This is not a game to me! Alright, this is a fucking way of life!
I got a fucking family!
Yeah, well, I got nothing! No one gives a fuck about me!
I do.
Oh, fuck you!
Michael is trying to make an effort, but not in the right way. He has a shallow mindset he seems to be fully aware of, such as his rationale that I have a psychiatrist so I'm already dealing with my problems, although the psychiatrist's pure interest is in a paycheck, and that I'm lounging next to my pool so I must be living the dream, although he is clearly frustrated with his life to the point that he appears to be numb. This superficiality never really dissolves until the mission reuniting the family, which reminds the player of why Michael wanted to quit his life of crime in the past, realizing that he's gotten his girlfriend pregnant and he needs to provide for his future family and keep them safe. Although I wouldn't say you and your wife screaming at each other while your kids keep to themselves on their phones in the psychiatrist's office is really a reunion.
This great.
Fantastic.
Michael, be positive.
I am being positive. This is me being positive.
Give it up, Michael. The sarcasm, it's one of the reasons I moved out. It's beneath you.
No, it's not, Amanda. Trust me. Nothing's beneath me.
No, normally there's a whore beneath you.
You know, for someone who spends every waking moment working on themselves inside and out, I gotta tell you, the progress has been really fucking slow.
How would you know what progress is like, you stupid murdering shit?
Gee, because all you do is whine at me.
Oh! All I do is whine. Michael, could you please stop murdering people? Michael, could you please stop endangering me and the both of your children? You kill people and then you sit in the sun and drink and feel guilty about it. That is not work.
I don't see you complaining on the way to the fucking bank. I mean, let's face it, Amanda. We're trailer trash, you and me. We were taught to do this.
Get a center, Michael. You have no center.
How about you suck my cock? Huh? No, wait. We'll both get a center before that ever happens.
You are such a fucking animal, a deranged animal.
You're fucking ain't right on deranged. How could I not be?
I should have had you locked up years ago, you stupid shit.
Do it. I'll put you in the fucking ground with the rest of them.
And that's really all the time we have.
Oh.
His failure as a family man as his criminal past comes back to haunt him is all because of his lack of self-reflection, which is further demonstrated after the bank heist Michael partakes in to pay back the drug dealer, only to catch the attention of Trevor as he watches the news and recognizes Michael's catchphrase. The cycle continues, and Michael lets it. He understands deep down that his pride gets in the way of either spectrum of good or bad, as a family man settles down, whereas a criminal forever lives a life on the run. Though he understands this, he doesn't seem to understand yet which one he wants.
This kind of opportunity comes along once in a lifetime, Hank. I have to grasp it.
You have to survive at first, Cole. Here are the veterans. The Japs love to shoot officers.
If I can make a name for myself in this war, my future...
Thinking of taking on a company of the Emperor's finest single-handed? You don't seem the Sergeant York type to me.
When I need your opinion, Kelso, I'll ask for it.
They talk about officers like you in boot camp, Cole. They call it the Custer Syndrome. Guys who go around dreaming of fame and glory and getting all of their men killed in the process.
Our duty is to lead, Kelso.
And their duty is to die for your wonderful future?
Cole's vanity is hinted at during cutscenes of his past, which often shows him with his naivety as he tries to adhere to the rules of war even when his fellow Mariners are in the line of fire. Though those like Jack Kelso are looked down upon in camp, they are respected on the field when it comes to taking action, as Jack knows that while there are rules in war, there are none in the battlefield.
We can lose everyone! Lieutenant! Get back off this fucking bridge! They'll start walking the mortars back to their own positions! We only have minutes! I'm in charge here, Sergeant! Get your men off the bridge, Lieutenant! What's your unit, Sergeant? We don't have time for this, Lieutenant! What's your unit, Sergeant? I company 22nd Marines, Lieutenant, and we just saved your ass by fording the river. My orders are to reconnoiter the... I think that point is now moot! You have 10 men left! My orders are to save what's left! Move out!
This is where Cole's self-righteousness comes back to cause trouble for him as a detective after coming back home to America, when he later discovers corruption in the LAPD and tries to make light of it for the sake of justice. Higher-ups who didn't want Cole's investigation into the LAPD antics to go further exposed the man himself to not be the hero the public saw him as he fell from grace having committed adultery while on the case. His publicized hypocrisy is what led to his demotion and forced Cole to try and redeem himself. What I don't like about this pivotal moment of his character development is that you switch to Jack Kelso later in the game, when this time could have been devoted to Cole's introspection on his mistakes to strengthen his character. I don't mind playing as Jack, but I ended up preferring him way more than our real protagonist, who I grew to dislike when having to suddenly switch back to playing as him. It may be because LA Noire had a rushed ending, but Cole's character seemed to take a dive in likability, and not because of his fall from grace. We don't see how much he's changed from it until he calls out Roy for covering up Courtney Sheldon's death by putting Cole in hot water of the press instead.
Courtney Sheldon was a corpsman, Roy. He served his country. He went out with a medical kit and an Army 45 into places that made the Valley of Death look like a picnic. He was either naive enough or dumb enough to get involved in the Suburban Redevelopment Fund, along with the mayor, the DA, Monroe, and a certain crooked cop. He was involved in the morphine heist, but he has a puncture wound in his jugular, which makes this a murder case. He was a better man than you'll ever know. You say one more word about him and I will blow your fucking head off!
You finally lost it, partner.
I have a pretty good idea why Sheldon's dead. And I know about Monroe. Your vast, corrupt future is draining away as we speak.
I got better things to do than argue the rub with you.
Cole's outburst didn't add much to his character, other than the fact that he too can lose his cool like the rest of us, which could be a reminder to the player that his mistake with Elsa wasn't so sudden as we may think. The only other thing that could be was that Casey Sheldon, just like Cole, had been tangled up in LAPD corruption and was offed as a result. Did Cole realize that he too could be a target as Casey was? He was a great detective, so he may have figured this out. Cole does end up dying in the game's finale, though this was not by the LAPD's hands. LA Noire's ending summates why a character can't be so easily redeemed through death. This is a cheap way for the player or a reader to feel guilty for their dislike towards a character who's passed, though they shouldn't when it comes to bad writing. Cole's death was out of the blue, which can be excused since sudden deaths happen in real life, but his funeral and the overall ending to LA Noire was rushed.
We're gathered here to honor Detective Cole Phelps. Cole Phelps was the best kind of man. Hear, hear. A war hero who led his men with true valor. And through his personal bravery achieved one of his country's highest honors. A cop, wrongly accused, who never lost his faith in the LAPD and the system.
Fine. You belittle his memory.
Elsa.
Out of my way, Jack. You call yourself his friend.
A detective who fought to expose the evil corruption of the murderous Dr. Fontaine and the rapacious property tycoon Leyland Monroe.
Though this may be representative of higher-up corruption so quickly washing away anyone who tries to go against them, and Roy's fluffy speech further demonstrating how this corruption will continue no matter how many goody two-shoes like Cole Phelps they face in the future.
He's down here.
Hey!
All right! Hot down, Marston! That's quite a scratch you got there.
Never thought I'd say this, but it's good to see you, Arthur Morgan.
You don't look so good.
I don't feel too good, neither. I'm freezing.
Don't die just yet, cowboy. Come on, compadre.
Well, we can't go back the way we came. Let's try this way.
Ain't you a sorry sight? Can't argue with you there.
For John, I'm going to show his characterization across RDR2 and a little from RDR1 since he's vastly different as time has passed in both games, with his appearance in RDR2 several years before he became the greater man he was in RDR1. Although since he is a supporting character in the second game, a lot of his change can be missed if you don't spot certain camp interactions sprinkled from beginning to end. At first, John's aloofness in his responsibility leads to him trying to get with Karen in one interaction and ignoring his son Jack's request to spend time together in another.
Am I being an idiot? Yes.
His immaturity to accept Jack as his own and be with his partner Abigail stems from not wanting to settle down, similar to Michael in GTA 5. Although after Jack is kidnapped, John is adamant to save him for Abigail, along with the rest of the gang, and ultimately changes his attitude towards family after they get his son back. In RDR1, we see John take full responsibility to take care of his family by letting go of his outlaw ways and even hunting down his old fellow gang members upon government orders. We got to see John develop throughout these two games, and although one could say he improved more than Arthur and is a better character, this is because John had survived Dutch's antics in the prequel to become a better man, whereas Arthur had died saving what was left of the gang and John's family.
I feel like you should take your woman and child and get lost.
Do you?
What reason you got to stick around at this point? It's done. I don't see no way out of any of this.
What about loyalty?
That's long been broken. But what are you gonna do? Gotta see this through. Try and make some of it right. There was a code we had. Gotta still mean something.
Sure, I know, but...
Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over.
Except for, of course, the fact Rockstar didn't intend on making a prequel, Arthur's sacrifice may be why John doesn't like to mention Arthur after his death, certainly in the first game a few years later.
Your pa don't like talking about him. Ain't that right, John?
The past is gone. We've left that behind.
Arthur was the one to convince John to look after his family, and went out of his way himself to make sure they fled so John could have the chance to.
Abigail. Abigail's safe. So's Jack.
Where are they?
It was Sadie at Copperhead Landing.
Thank you, brother.
I want you to not look back. Like I said.
Arthur had given his last piece of advice to John before he made him escape, and that was to never look back. Revenge is a strong thematic subject to pair with pride, especially in Red Dead Redemption, because those who seek revenge are unable to let go of the past that hurt them, that they seek this revenge in the first place.
Keep pushing, Arthur.
No. No. I think I've pushed all I can.
Come on.
You go.
We ain't got time for this, not now.
We ain't both gonna make it. Go. Now. I'll hold them off. It would mean a lot to me. Please. There ain't no more time for talk. Go.
Arthur.
Go to your family.
Arthur!
Get the hell out of here and be a goddamn man.
You're my brother.
I know. I know.
John seeks revenge for Arthur's death by killing Micah at the end of the second game, which only allows for Agent Ross to find him. If John hadn't looked back and instead decided to let go entirely for the sake of his family, Ross wouldn't have found him, using him against his old friends and killed him in the end. John's reasons behind not wanting to talk about Arthur may either be because he now respects Arthur's advice to not look back and bring up the past, or because he's ashamed that he had by killing Micah and went against Arthur's advice. And that advice had come to Arthur when struck with tuberculosis. Knowing that he will face inevitable death caused him to sit down and think hard about what was worth doing with the time he had left, and clinging to pride like those around him wasn't one of them. Back to the Greek tragedy Antigone. The play describes that if one manages to be cured from pride, then what is left is guilt. Arthur experiences this throughout the latter half of the game after being diagnosed with tuberculosis, thinking back to how different his life could have been if he hadn't lived so dangerously. From Antigone, "Lead me away. I have been rash and foolish. I have killed my son and my wife. I look for comfort. My comfort lies here dead. Whatever my hands have touched has come to nothing. Fate has brought all my pride to a thought of dust."
Okay? Yeah, I got TB. I got it. Beating a man to death for a few bucks. I've lived a bad life, sister.
We've all lived bad lives, Mr. Morgan. We all sin. But I know you.
You don't know me.
Forgive me, but that's the problem. You don't know you.
What do you mean?
I don't know, but whenever we happen to meet, you're always helping people and smiling.
I had a son. He passed away. I had a girl who loved me. I threw that away. My mama died when I was a kid. And my daddy, well, I watched him die. And it weren't soon enough.
My husband died a long time ago. Life is full of pain. But there is also love and beauty.
What am I gonna do now?
Be grateful that for the first time, you see your life clearly.
Sure.
Perhaps you could help somebody. Helping makes you really happy.
But I still don't believe in nothing.
Often, neither do I.
Huh?
But then I meet someone like you, and everything makes sense.
You're too smart for me, sister. I guess I'm afraid.
Arthur's recognition of his mortality has also made him emotionally vulnerable. Arthur Morgan has proven to be one of the best protagonists Rockstar's ever created, in part of him admitting his mistakes out loud and actively trying to make amends before he passes at any time. Of course, you can play him quite differently.
I am Aldridge T. Abington, tasked with bringing—
But Arthur's high honor and parallel to the buck deer is proven to be canon. His high honor allows him to worry about how his past actions have affected his gang and others victim to their crimes. He broods on the fact that he doesn't have time to make amends, and only dreads what will happen to those like Thomas Downs' family, the very man whom he contracted TB from, or how rains fall and his people will persevere through their hard times during their exploitation by the government. He constantly talks down of himself on how bad of a man he is, seen more explicit with his camp interactions with Mary Beth.
Only the thing is, since then, I've started seeing things differently. I don't know. The whole world seems different somehow.
How so?
I can't explain it. Like better, almost.
That a good thing?
I guess it is. Only sometimes I ain't doing the good thing.
Maybe it's a sign, Arthur. Try. Try to do the good thing.
I guess. Only it ain't always clear what that is. Not with the big stuff.
I know. Trust me, I know.
At least she's a better therapist than Michael's. It is interesting to note that while he has clearly committed heinous crimes, he did so callously, not with emotion or out of revenge especially. Dutch had taught him that revenge is a fool's game, and while pride is a common thematic subject throughout Rockstar games, it's really with Arthur Morgan's journey throughout Red Dead Redemption 2, where he repeatedly sees what such a poisonous thing does to people around him. Arthur encounters people throughout his life who had succumbed to pride, whether it be their fault or others. Mary with not marrying him because of him being an outlaw, Wapiti Indians being exploited by Colonel Favors, and most important of all, Dutch with his plan! Arthur's inevitable death also helps him gain an understanding of the fragility of others, especially Dutch, and why his father figure turns to pride. Dutch knew Micah had plotted against the gang, and even when Arthur downright tells him so, Dutch refuses to admit it. Instead, Dutch tells Arthur and the others that if they aren't with him, then they're against him.
Hurry! We ain't got long. Hurry!
We just got plenty of time, Micah. We all need to have a little chat.
Black Lung, you're back. Hooray!
I just saw Agent Milton, Dutch. Abigail shot him. She's okay. Not that you care too much about that. You rats. All of you. Seems old Micah was pretty close with Milton.
What the hell are you talking about, cowpoke?
You talked.
That's a goddamn lie.
Dutch.
Dutch, think of the future.
Milton told me.
And you believe him, Black Lung? You believe him?
It all makes sense now.
No, it damn well doesn't.
Dutch, think.
Dutch, be practical now.
Dutch!
John?
You left me. You left me to die. My boy, I didn't have a choice. John, I didn't have a choice. Left me! All of you, you pick your side now because this is over. All them years, Dutch, for this snake.
Oh, be quiet, cowpoke. Be quiet. You live in the clouds.
No, you be quiet, Mr. Bell, and put down your gun.
There's Pinkertons coming, fast!
Now! Who amongst you is with me? And who is betraying me?
Though Michael ditched Trevor twice in GTA 5, while Cole devised to expose the LAPD in LA Noire, and John outright killed his old gang members in RDR1, Arthur Morgan still remains faithful to Dutch throughout the game by trying to console him instead of keeping up the blind loyalty Dutch outwardly wants from him. Pride is a form of protection. It is a way to border up oneself to avoid feeling weak, but instead feel a false sense of control. This is why if the player has Arthur's morality meter quite low, Arthur dies by Micah instead of being taken by tuberculosis, since Arthur is supposed to have died through a natural death he can't avoid, as suffering with this incurable disease is what gave him the insight and humility in the first place.
That's the way it is. That's the way
Come on. Dutch. Let's go, buddy. We made it.
This makes Arthur's death even more tragic, as he does all he can to save the gang, though Dutch's antics is what drives Arthur past his limit with his brawl with Micah. Arthur felt Dutch had the capacity to change just as he himself did, while the reality was that Dutch was far too gone for Arthur to save, the one he wanted to save most of all.
I tried. In the end, I did.
Come on. Let's go. We can make it. on, Dutch! Come on!
This is all going to plan.